Pleasure, my pleasure. So, how was your holidays? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was beautiful. We got to host in my household, where we brought in both sides of the family and were able to finally get to kick it back a little bit and just really thank God for everything that we've been given this year and being able to relax.
Outstanding, outstanding. For those who don't know you, can you tell us one, what does District 5, what area geographically does that cover?
Yeah, so District 5 is, think about it as the southernmost part of Boston.
Mm-hmm.
It's Rosendale, Hyde Park, and Mattapan.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a small portion called Reedville, which is part of Hyde Park, but it's like that part where it borders Dedham as well. So yeah, so I represent the furthest part away from like the downtown Boston.
Mm-hmm. Okay, beautiful. And now this is your second term?
I'm going into my second term.
Okay, and so the terms are how long for those who don't know?
Yeah, so as a city councilor in Boston, all 13 of us, we get elected for 2 years every term.
Mm-hmm.
So that's different from the mayor, which is every 4 years. So yeah, so I just got elected. I got elected in 2023, and we're wrapping up my first term literally at the end of this month, and then we get reintroduced in January, where we started our new term.
Mm-hmm. And so for those who don't know Enrique Pepin, tell us, who are you? Tell us about where you come from, your story. Who are you? What should we know about Enrique Pepin?
Yeah, so I'm a son of Boston. So I'm born and raised here in Boston. Actually born in Charlestown, over at the public housing, or as I call them, the projects, the bricks. My parents, they're immigrants from the Dominican Republic.
Wow.
They got to Boston in the 1990s. They decided that Boston was the best place for them just because of, I think my grandpa was here first, and then my mom came, and my parents and my dad came over. And Boston has been home for me forever. I got into government at a very young age. I was introduced to Mayor Menino when I was like 8 years old.
Wow.
And I just fell in love with the essence of what it means to be a mayor, the influence that someone like Mayor Menino had on our city. And I said, I want to be like that guy one day. And I got involved at my elementary school. I ran for class president.
Wow.
I invited Mayor Menino to come give the graduation speech when I graduated from 8th grade. He attended.
What school is that?
The Hurley School in the South End.
Ah.
So I went to the Hurley from kindergarten to 8th grade, and I went to the John D. O'Brien in Roxbury for high school. So I'm a BPS kid. At BPS, I ran for class president. I did Model United Nations. I participated in ROTC as well. So I was wearing the Navy uniform every Thursday.
Wow.
So I grew a fond appreciation of our military and of those that served. And that's when I ran for class president. I gave the senior class speech. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because that same day, there's always a guest speaker at a graduation. That year was City Councilor Tito Jackson.
Oh, wow.
For District 7. And his speech just blew me away, and I said, I want to know who this guy is. After that, during my freshman year of college, I went to Suffolk University. I applied for an internship at his office. A special shout out to Nichelle Sadler, who was his chief of staff at the time, and she gave me the opportunity to work at his office. I was working doing constituent services for Tito in Roxbury, fell in love with the community, fell in love with connecting residents with housing resources, with food resources, with filling potholes and connecting them to transportation resources as well. And I liked it so much that he offered me a part-time gig. So I stayed on, and he ran for mayor, and I worked for him. I volunteered on his mayoral race as well. So I was a huge fan of what it meant to be a city councilor, and someone like Tito Jackson, who I still call to this day for advice. He just always picks up the phone. After that, he obviously lost the mayoral race that year. So I had to start looking for a new job, and I heard that there was an opening for a congressman, working for Congressman Joe Kennedy. And that was to be his district coordinator in his Newton office. And I said, that sounds interesting. It's a bit of a change for me because I've always worked in city government. Let's go check it out, what it's like to work for federal government. So I ended up getting the gig. I worked for him doing his Social Security casework and his immigration casework as well over at his district office. I did that for about 2 years when I got the opportunity there was an opening for Mayor Walsh's administration as the neighborhood liaison for Jamaica Plain, and advocating for the residents there, making sure that the residents had a connection to the mayoral administration. That was probably one of my favorite jobs, because when you are a neighborhood liaison under any administration, you truly get an understanding of how city government works. Mm-hmm. You're talking to every single department. Mm-hmm. After that, Joe Kennedy decides to run for Senate. He calls me right back. He's like, hey, I need a body man for this election. A body man is someone that's with a candidate 24/7. You're taking the phone calls. You're making sure that he's introducing himself, making sure that you're taking the notes, that he's going from point A to point B. That was that person for Joe Kennedy during his Senate race. Wow. Yeah, he loses that race. So here we go. We're 0 for 2 now on elections. I don't know what it is to win an election yet. But after that, he loses. I get an opportunity with an organization called Transportation for Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. It's the organization that helped make the 28 bus free, and the 23 and the 23 and the 19 bus free. But the first bus was the 28 bus.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
That was the first one, and I was part of that conversation during a coalition called Transit is Essential. I worked for them during COVID, so one of my strongest advocacies was stopping the MBTA from cutting services during COVID, and making sure that the community was plugged into those decisions. And we actually rallied community members to make sure that they were sending letters of just advocacy to their state senators and state representatives, letting them know to please don't allow this to happen. And luckily it did not. Mayor Wu was running for office during the time. I liked her policy work, and I said, you know what, I want to get behind this candidate. So I got behind the mayor. I volunteered for her, and when she was elected, she offered me the position to go back to work for the city as director of neighborhood services. So back to the position where I work for Mayor Walsh as a liaison, but here I am as a director, looking over the 20 neighborhood liaisons that represented the entire city. That's when I really started to fall in love with what it was like to have a grasp of the different departments and how the budget works and how we could connect residents to multiple departments to make sure that they were okay and they were connected. I came up with the weekly coffee hours. I came up with making sure that we, instead of working from inside City Hall, we were working outside of City Hall, doing work from the BCYFs, from the local libraries, etc. The opportunity came about to run for office for District 5, and that was 2023. And I said, you know what? This is the opportunity for me to do this. I spoke with my family, spoke with my wife. I had 2 kids. I still have 2 kids, so I got one on the way.
Congratulations!
Thank you. And I did it. But it sounds like a resume, or you could get all this information from LinkedIn. But the message that I like to tell people is that I love this city, and I love the people of this city. And the way that I look at city government is like a big puzzle of making sure that we are connecting the right pieces to making sure that the residents are supported, that the departments have enough resources to support those residents. But if that there is, it doesn't matter how big or small the issue is, that we are working collectively to find an answer to it. And that's what I love about it.
That sounds great. An incredible journey and story. And again, congratulations on your re-election. As you speak about making the city of Boston better for all of the people in the various, your expansive resume. Our city right now, obviously, we're tackling some really challenging issues. From my perspective, one of the biggest ones is housing.
Yes.
And one of the things that many of us feel are counter to the housing. There's lots of building that's happening, but there's a term, gentrification, you're familiar with.
Yes.
And people feel that people who are here, who've been here, who have struggled here, who were born here, who went to public schools here, are being pushed out because they can't afford to continue to live. I was taking a ride in an Uber on Sunday to church, and it was interesting. A gentleman who happened to be of Asian descent was saying to me, well, quite candidly, it was on a Sunday, as I said, I was coming to church, and the street sweepers were sweeping the street on down Dorchester Ave. And the gentlemen were, literally in the middle of the street, socializing, talking. That's fine, I get it, they're enjoying their job, but we were like, needed to get past. This may be a caller, so let's see. Let me see. Let me just see. Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. Wrong number. Okay, so where was I? So the Uber driver was like, these guys are in the middle of the street, right? And so he pulls up and he's like, encouraging them to get out the street. And they're looking at him like, what? Right? And sometimes, and again, immaturity, people, human dynamics, whatever, young or whatever, sometimes people just don't do the right thing, right? So that happened nonetheless. So as we're driving, he says to me, I don't know if this is a, let's see, this is a caller or not. Boston Praise Radio ONTV Network. Hello? Okay. I guess people are just calling just to call. Okay, so we guess we won't take any calls. In any event, as I was saying, and I will say that there are people whom have what they perceive to be power because of proximity to power. I.e., I work for the mayor.
Right.
So I can do whatever I want to do, and there's not going to be any repercussions.
Right.
Right. So, and that's wrong is wrong, right is right. Right. And so aside of that, we were able to get past that, and we were talking. He said to me that the bike lane. He was talking about the bike lanes, and there are lots of people who are really having a problem with the bike lanes. I'm not sure what your position is with the bike lanes,
right.
But there are people who have been challenged with the bike lanes, and he alluded to the fact that it's a small percentage of the population, and that we know that is actually the case because it was 19% of the population who actually bothered to cast a ballot, who are registered voters for the election.
Right.
Right. That's a problem. So I'm just encouraging people. What does it take, like, for people to be engaged civically? Because, and can you speak to the importance of everybody? You're saying for it to be a better city for all of us, it shouldn't be 35% of the people who actually were registered to vote elected Michelle Wu the first time. And in the preliminary, 19%. So Josh Kraft and Domingo DeRosa said, this is not even worth my time.
Yep.
So there's something wrong about, and we're trying to get people behind the wall in particular. This is a population whom no one is even thinking about, who have the right to vote. And we know we've extended the invitation to when the door opens again. We'll hope for that every incumbent will come behind the wall and engage our brothers and sisters who are living in cages behind the wall.
To hit on all three of those things.
Yeah.
Start with housing. As I mentioned in the beginning, I was born and raised in public housing.
Yep.
And so for me, I was able to really be a beneficial of what it's like to live in public housing and the blessing and curse that it is to be able to afford to live in public housing, but also feel like if you don't get out, it could feel like a trap.
Yes.
And a trap for success.
Yep.
And luckily, my family was able to get out, honestly, because they were proposing to tear down the Charlestown projects back in the day. Mm-hmm. And it didn't happen until this past year, honestly. Mm-hmm. So they gave us the opportunity to leave, where then my parents were able to relocate to Rosenhill, which is where we are right now. The reason why the housing situation it is in Boston, and this is part of the issue, is it has become so difficult to build in Boston. The zoning in Boston is the most complicated zoning in the entire country. It is a book over 4,000 pages. That is longer than the zoning book of New York City. It's the biggest one in the entire country. And the reason why that is an issue is because when someone is proposing a building, they're going to have to go through loopholes. And only those with the necessary means are able to get it done.
Absolutely.
And what happens, usually, they're more luxurious condos being built. Hence, gentrification. Those are the ones that are able to get it through. What I've been able to do in my first term is something called the rezoning reform, with things like squares and streets, looking at different parts of the neighborhoods, making sure that we are looking at how outdated zoning has actually hurt our housing production history. There's one right now that we're actually talking about where we had a hearing 2 weeks ago. Is when you think about housing in Boston, you think about triple deckers. You know, the tradition, especially here in Dorchester. You're going down Dodd Ave, Adams Street, Washington Street. You're going to see a ton of triple deckers.
Yes.
Did you know that it's technically not as a right to build them in the city of Boston?
Say that again.
You can't build them. You can't file a permit right now, and you cannot build them as of right in the city of Boston.
You can't build any new.
No, unless you're going to get variances. So that means you're going to have to go through community process. You're going to have to go through the ZBA. But back in the day, that wasn't the case. Back in the day, there used to be as of right. And what started to happen is that a lot of our immigrant communities, I'm not talking about the Latinos, the Haitians, the Cape Verde. I'm talking about back then, the Italians, the Jewish, the Greeks. They started to purchase a lot of them. Then started to come the Cape Verdeans, the Latinos, the Haitians. They started to purchase them too. Once the people started to realize that the immigrant families were buying them, they made it more difficult to build. So they started to say, nope, let's actually let's restrict the zoning so that it isn't as easy to do this. Once that started to happen, you start to see just single family zoning happening, the lining of Mattapan, right, and everything had come into fruition. We made it a lot harder for people that look like you and I to be able to build or purchase a home in the city of Boston. Those laws still impact us today, which is why it has impacted housing in general in the city of Boston. We're retracting now. We're fixing it now. We're fixing the zoning. We're talking about triple decker zoning, adding 8 if you're a homeowner, making sure that if you want your mom or a family to live with you so that you can make an ADU, an assisted dwelling unit, easier to be able to be built in the city of Boston. When you remove those restrictions out of the way, you make it more affordable to build. And then you start to fix the affordability of the city of Boston. Especially, there's so much demand right now for housing in the city of Boston. People want to live here.
Yes.
That's just the reality. We have great schools, we have great jobs, we have great healthcare.
Yes.
We have great quality of life compared to a lot of... Say what you want. You're going to complain about Boston, but at the end of the day, people see Boston like the top of the line.
Absolutely.
And because of that, there's a lot of demand, but we don't have enough supply. It's like you go to a car dealership. They say you and I go to the car dealership. There's only one car left. We both want it. What's the car dealer going to do? He's going to up the price. Who's the biggest bidder?
And let me speak to that. Right, I appreciate your candor. This has been brilliant, and that's helpful. That education in terms of the zoning and so forth, and I'm happy to hear that there's some changes, and we need to push for those changes to happen. But innovation, right? This is a time that we need innovation more than ever before, so that we're efficient. Yes. Right, with these parcels of land. My father would say, God rest his soul, if you get an opportunity to put your hands on some land, do that. That's the one thing that never depreciates.
Yes.
And it's the one thing that you can't produce more of.
Correct.
There's only so much land.
Correct.
Right? So you can go up,
yep,
but there's only so much land.
Yes.
Right? And so with that said, we have to be smart.
Yes.
And we have to be efficient.
Yes.
Right? And so, and the notion of people who just have money, right? People come from all the percent, I think he was saying, with regard to the bike lane, this gentleman was saying that there was 2% of the population that I guess supports bike lanes or something to that, or 2% of the population of people. That's what he said. There are people who are students who go to this colleges here who are from here. That's what he said. 2%. I was like, whoa, but it makes sense. This is the educational mecca of the world.
Yes.
These higher institutions of learning, right? As you said, people who've gone to public school, in many instances. Now, unfortunately, some people can't, they're illiterate,
yes,
right? And they're graduating or they're closing Boston public schools. We just gave the superintendent a huge raise, right? And in terms of our public school system really needs a lot of work, right? People are afraid to go to school, right? The bullying, all that kind of stuff that is on steroids. I would be afraid, right? Because you have the social media that's going to be able to real time. Kids have always been bullies.
Yes.
But it's worse now when it's all over the whole world, right? So we've got to be able to address those kinds of things. And I think with the high institutions of learning and the payment in lieu of taxes, that they're not doing their fair share.
No. And there's a lot of room for growth in that area, especially in our education field where, as a product of BPS and now actually a parent of a child that's in Boston public schools, I'm very invested in making sure that our education system is heading in the right direction. Do I think we are headed there? Yes, because what I've been able to see is there is investment being made despite the closings that are happening.
Okay.
And I do want to get into that because it happened in my district with the closure of the Sumner School and the Philbrick School, 2 great smaller elementary schools that are now merged into the bigger Sarah Roberts School, the old Washington Irving School building on Cummins Highway.
Okay.
What they were able to do there is being able to use, they were upgraded in an older building.
Yeah.
Now it's a state-of-the-art elementary school that goes up to the 8th grade, I believe. And the school now have a brand new auditorium, gymnasium, cafeteria, this amazing classrooms, where the other two schools were crumbling because of how old the infrastructure was. Merging schools and closing schools in the city of Boston is always going to be a tough conversation. Why? Because you are disrupting a community. You are disrupting what people are used to. You are disrupting great resources that parents and students and teachers may be receiving at this specific school. But this is all a result because of the lack of investment that happened in BPS for decades. I'm talking 40 to 50 to 60 years where we weren't seeing any new schools being built in the city of Boston.
Correct. I'm going to say real quick, because you're right. And I know that Charles Yancey, because he was a city councilor who's been saying forever, we need a high school. We need more schools.
Yeah, we need new,
brand new.
Just, our students deserve to go to a school where they're not worrying if the heater is going to turn on.
Yes.
They need a new school where their bathrooms don't look like, I've seen bathrooms in this BP where I'm just like, this isn't okay.
That's right.
And there's a few schools in my district where their auditoriums is the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the art room, and a closet, all in one. And it's because of the lack of space.
Sure.
So we have to be creative. To your point, land is no longer an option in the city of Boston. We've used all of it. Let's see what we have now. So that's why the tough decisions like closing a school or merging schools to use one building to renovate it, to bring in another school into it, we have to start being creative with it because that's what we have right now.
And I appreciate that. With that said, I'm hopeful that the quality, right? One they were offering, the IEPs, right?
Yes.
That people that are really doing what they have to do to be able to, each individual person to be able, because trauma is a big thing, right? Mental illness, right? Is a big illness. You've got a bunch of students that are homeless.
Yes.
Back to the housing piece.
That's another piece where we shouldn't have so many homeless students in BPS, or we need to start tackling why is this even a thing?
Correct.
Which I actually was able to ask this question at one of our BPS hearings recently, where I said, hey, what's the connection? What can we do as a city of figuring out, all right, which students are homeless? Why are they homeless? What resources do the parents need or their guardians? And how can we connect them to the Office of Housing Stability or even use the school? I like the schools that they're using right now as a model. They're called community hub schools, where they're more than just a school. It's more of a community center, resource center type of school,
nice.
Where not only the student is able to get the education, but the parents also could go in for a resource. And that's the model that we really need to continue to push forward in the city of Boston to be able to eliminate the high percentages of homeless students in BPS, or those that go to a house and they don't have food on their table. Like that's what it's going to take in the city of Boston. It's a all hands on deck type of approach.
And teachers, as you said, understanding. I mean, I don't know if you remember the movie Precious.
Yes.
That's real, right? Yes. Like that's real. I know people like Cindy Diggs and other folks who like pack the auditorium and heck gets watch that because this is real people's experiences, abuses that are happening within the home, right? Being indoctrinated into lives of crime and a whole bunch of, but teachers paid attention.
Yes.
And were able to do some intervention. And in many instances, people are afraid.
Yes.
To engage our young folks.
Very. And I want to give a shout out to the teachers.
Yes.
Because they don't have to do this, but because they have that exposure of, oh, this student is going through this. Do you know the amount of emails that I get from teachers saying, hey, can you advocate for this? Or can you help the students with this?
I'm sure.
Teachers are one of the biggest blessings that we have in society, which is why we got to pay them right.
Correct.
We got to make sure that they have the right resources in their schools to make sure that they're providing top-notch education, but also support. So just to any teacher listening here today, just thank you for the work that you do.
Absolutely.
Because I have a couple that impacted. There's a reason I credit a lot where I am today because of my teachers at BPS.
I can echo that. With that said, do you support a fully elected school committee? And let me just qualify that there was a non-binding referendum that I'm sure you're cognizant of, that the overwhelming city of Boston said we want a fully elected school committee like every other municipality throughout this Commonwealth. And it seems to have fallen on deaf ears. And again, there's some things that I appreciate about our mayor, and there's some things I don't.
Yeah.
But let's have a conversation as to, one, what is your position and why?
Yes. So being a city councilor, I've been able to really learn a lot about the school committee and learning about the importance of their roles, but also learning about the immense support that there is for an elected school committee. Because of that, I do support a fully elected school committee because I do see how other municipalities do it. I know that because they are elected, they're able to be held accountable about the decisions that they're going to do for Boston Public Schools. If not, you take the accountability away, and you take the. I was speaking to. I love to do this to one of my competitors in my race. Shout out to Sharon Hinton, who just does a lot of work for our community. Yes. And we talked about this for a while. And she's like, Enrique, if we had a school committee that we could run for, I would have ran for that instead of council.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I would have appreciated that one. but we went into the rabbit hole about it. It's because if you're focused on education and you really want the best for your students, like other municipalities and other major cities across this country, you should be able to be in an elected position there. Why is Boston different? I'm pretty sure that the history is intense, and there's different reasons why it became appointed and why it wasn't elected. There's a lot to decipher in all of that, but I think that we should be heading in the course of an elected position.
Appreciate that. I mean, bottom line from my perspective is we elect people to office to do what we ask them to do.
Yes.
Not what you think's better for us.
Yeah.
And so that's the piece for me. Just, if overwhelmingly people bother to put it on a petition, people bother to actually respond. And again, as we said earlier, people are feeling like, why even be engaged? Because no one's listening to what I have to say.
Yeah.
So it's important to hear independent voices that are going to say, we will do what the people have put us here to do, to represent us.
That is why when I remember talking at a community forum or I'm inviting folks to a meeting that I'm hosting, it's like, give me ideas. Let's brainstorm together. It's actually how I came up with my safe school bus policy that I pushed for. I was able to meet with the student council body over at the Boston Renaissance Academy in Hyde Park. And this was in my first 2 months of my tenure as a city councilor. And they said, Enrique, council, we don't feel safe on the school bus because there's a lot of moments where we almost get hit by a bus. And I said, okay, you guys are onto something. Obviously, this is pretty important. So I went out to some of the school bus pickup sites and I witnessed it for myself. But this wouldn't have been brought to my attention if it wasn't for the students who couldn't even vote. But because of using their voices and being part of student council and their parents also advocating, we were able to push that forward to the point where the governor signed it into law at the end of the year as a statewide initiative.
Wow.
And that's why it's like, I don't like to just say Enrique did that. No, the community did that. And there's so much more other examples about it. But the reason why I wanted to share with you all and make sure that the audience is listening is that your voice matters. Yes. Your ideas matter. It doesn't matter how radical you think they are or spontaneous they are. No, it's like if you see an issue and you think about a solution, or even if you don't have a solution yet, you want to brainstorm one, bring it to our attention. At least for me, I love problem solving. As I mentioned before, that's the reason why I got into government. I look at it as a puzzle. So let's fix the puzzle together.
Absolutely. So I really appreciate that independent voice and the leadership with regard to listening to the people. Let's go to you said you went to John D. O'Brien?
Yes.
So let's talk about, I believe that whole situation was about to be moved, and I believe that it was not.
Yes.
Praise be to God, because the people who were graduates of it said, what are you doing?
Yes.
How dare you move this without even having a conversation?
Yes.
Never mind John D. O'Brien, who it was named after.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So I wasn't on the council yet.
Okay.
When the decisions were made, but I was not in favor of it, and I was pretty adamant about that, just making sure that it stayed in Roxbury. Going to school in Roxbury in high school for me was, one, it's the reason why I fell in love with that school. Like, you're on Malcolm X Boulevard. You were able to. I was able to
Wow,
walk.
right.
I was able to walk to Northeastern's cafeteria as a high schooler, feel like I belong there. My favorite pizzeria to this day is Crispy Dough's Pizzeria up on Tremont Street, and or AK's if you wanted the broccoli Alfredo slice. And then you also had Nubian Square. Back in the day, it was Deli,
Right.
but you had Nubian Square right down the street where you were able to take any bus to get anywhere. You could take the 66 bus to Brighton. You could take the Silverlands to downtown. You could take the 23 bus up to here to Dorchester. And that was for me, one of the biggest blessings as a high school student, because it exposed me to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
It exposed me to what it meant to be a city kid.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife went to BLA at the time, so we were rivals. I went to OB, she went to BLA. And where we would meet up was Nubian Square. We would meet up at Nubian Square. We go to... Yes, we went to Yum Yum sometimes, but it's okay. I know people don't like it. We went to Dunkies there in Nubian Square, but that's where we would hang out before we would go our separate ways. And when I thought about that not being the case for new students going into OB, for me, it was personal because I knew what I had experienced as a student. I was like, no, the campus in West Roxbury has a lot of potential.
Okay.
We need to do something with it. That needs to be reformed into if it's another school, if it's housing, if it's a mixture of things, if it's an arts, cultural school, whatever it is. There's a lot of opportunity there. Mm-hmm. Now, I also believe that whole facility of O'Brien and Madison Park needs to be revamped.
Absolutely.
Because when I'm talking about if you're a student in BPS and you're worrying about having the heat on, I was one of those students taking classes in the basement level of the O'Brien. And either the heater was too hot or it wasn't on, or the leaky roofs or something, or whatever was happening, or having to cut through Madison Park to go to the OB gym. It was always a maze. It was something. So let's make sure that if we're going to say OB is one of the top schools in the city, if Madison Park is going to be the only vocational school in the city, let's make sure that they have the right infrastructure for it.
And I appreciate that. And going to the Madison Park, I'm glad you said that because trades, right? Everybody's not academic, right?
Correct.
I went to a trade school, and I loved it, the culinary arts. And not only was it good for me as a student, I learned, but it was also good for the community. Because people from the community, they had adult classes, right? We had a restaurant for the community that it was incredible to be able to have people from the community as we're learning and being trained. We're able to actually serve. We had, banquets and things that we did that we were able to feel proud. We did a cake for the governor for veterans coming home from war. So this is the things that we can do, and I'm shocked.
Yes.
That Boston.
Yes.
That's not doing more than it can be with this the educational mecca of the world.
Right. And I think that Madison Park has so much potential.
Yes.
One thing that I do want to highlight that has been a positive this year is that for the first time ever, there's a new partnership with the trade unions where now the trade unions have created a partnership with Madison Park that if a student wants to go into carpentry and to be an iron worker and to be an electrician, they're going to be able to do an apprenticeship with those unions.
That's amazing.
So that's a new partnership that now exists between Madison Park and the greater Boston Labor Council. So it's a beautiful thing, and that's a step in the right direction.
It is.
But we need to continue to do more.
It is.
The kids need, like we said, a new facility, more partnerships. Listen, as you mentioned, not everyone is going to go to college. Not everyone wants to go to college. Not everyone can go to college.
Correct.
Let's give them an opportunity to be a carpenter, to be an electrician, to be a chef,
Yes.
to be an entrepreneur,
Sure.
to be a hairstylist. Like, we have so much resources and potential here in the city of Boston where we are able to create that for our students. So let's just make that come into fruition.
I love that. With that said, that's a great segue. For one, are you a proponent of an entity like T. Michael and the People's Academy? I got his bracelet right here. It's Coppersmith, right? That's a unique niche, right? That's teaching people who are directly impacted.
Yes.
Fathers, wives, right? People who have been incarcerated to be able to make a living wage.
Yes.
Right? And also be housed, to be in community, and to offer a resource for the community.
So if you know T. Michael Thomas, you know Fabian the Pizza, right?
Maybe so.
So Fabian is a resident of Hyde Park that is probably one of the biggest advocates for T. Michael Thomas.
Okay.
And because of that, I have been able to connect with Mr. T. Michael Thomas, learn about the work that he does. It's funny enough, I don't know if he remembers this, but when Joe Kennedy was running for Senate, I was his assistant, and I was able to go to the site and see the work that he was doing.
Wow.
Right here in Dorchester, and learn a lot of the work that he's done. So people like that are creating opportunities for our students to explore other ways that they could use their hands and their imagination to be able to come up with a form of art or tools that society can use. So yes to that, and yes to anyone who has creative ideas to get our youth involved.
Outstanding. And not just our youth, but even adults who are coming
Correct.
out of incarceration who need to make a living wage. Right.
We were just talking about that today on the Boston City Council meeting, actually. We just codified the department because it wasn't codified yet.
The Office of Returning Citizens.
The Office
Today
of Returning
that happened?
Today that
Awesome.
happened. So shout out to the workers that work in that department. Shout out to my council colleagues who made this happen. It just shows that our commitment to returning citizens is real. I actually have... is it okay if I tell a quick
Please, yes.
anecdote where I was at Almont Park in Mattapan in my district, and I was just doing a walkthrough during a Field Friday, and I ran into 3 gentlemen who are returning citizens, and they came up to me. They didn't know who I was, and I was like, hey, I was just talking to them normally, and they were like, what do you do? I'm the city councilor for this area. And they were like, yo, can we get an opportunity to work? And in my mind, I was like, okay, like we actually have an office in the city of Boston that does this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to connect them, and they were able to reach out, and I believe they even applied. But it just shows that I believe in second chances.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in people wanting to do good and return to society and be part of what it's like to go back to work, to be able to provide for their family. And if we're not making that easier for them as a city, I don't know what we're doing. But luckily, we are doing that here in the city of Boston.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that Ruth C. Lejeune was here last week, and obviously she's the president of the city council.
Yes.
She's an at-large city councilor, and we actually have been engaging Ruth C. Lejeune as well as Brian Worrell when there was zero budget for the Office of Returning Citizens. Right, so we're glad that we actually have an office that has a budget,
Yes.
and now it's been codified
Yes.
as an official institution. With that said, she sat in that same seat, and I challenged her, and I want to challenge you the same challenge. There's one returning citizen who works for the Office of Returning Citizens. His name is Bob Turner, who has been there when there was no budget, has been there through the iterations of executive directors, but has not been we work intimately with him, being healing our land behind the wall, working with those who are coming back into society. And we have an intimate relationship. And so our challenge is that, first of all, the model of the Office of Returning Citizens was created in Washington, D.C. And the franchise, if you will, like a McDonald's, right? You got a formula, is that it had to be run by a returning citizen because there's an anointing. There's a lived experience that's beyond just book knowledge. It's beyond just, having formerly worked in an carceral setting.
Yes.
But you have been in a cage.
Yes.
There's no way you can understand that unless you've lived that.
Correct.
And so from the head, that's what the model should be. And I challenge her. And not only that, I've heard some people say, I will never hire a returning citizen, right? Who's been in a position of power at the Office of Returning Citizens.
Right.
So I'm just challenging you so that there's solidarity, right? She said, challenge accepted. Because we've talked about, it's one thing to put a budget, it's one thing to codify the office,
right,
but we're just going to throw money at a problem if we don't have an anointing to be able to be efficient with those resources.
And there's nothing like lived experience to bring understanding into a workplace. So challenge accepted from my part. I'll make sure to connect with Councilor Louis Jean and Worrell about this to see where are we heading in the right direction.
Appreciate that. Let's shift to mass and caste. That's another intersectionality and another major humane situation, because to me, folks who are incarcerated, it's a humane situation. We're human first. Before you're an ex-offender, before you're anything, we're human. And we need to humanize people who are in carceral settings, that they're not. I'll say this. I said it when Clifton Braithwaite and I continue to educate, as I was mortified to learn that the 13th Amendment of our U.S. Constitution states, to date, slavery was abolished with the exception of those who are serving time. So if you are incarcerated anywhere across these United States of America, if you are waiting pre-trial, you don't have money to pay for bail, you are relegated to the status of a slave.
I didn't know that.
That's the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to date. I didn't know it either. When I heard it, I was like, wow. And someone needs to work to totally take that out, right? Like, no, never mind amending it that it's at one point we were not even fully human as people of color, right? So we were 3/5 of a man. So they amended it. No, they need to take that totally out. Like, that's a relic of slavery.
Yes.
And it's the new modern day slavery is incarceration. Right? That's why you can treat people inhumanely, and people don't know the conditions that people are going behind, that they're experiencing behind the wall.
Of course. Plus, and if you see the numbers of those that are incarcerated, the highest percentages are Black and Latino.
Yes.
It's
and poor.
It's just, that's just the reality.
It's the reality.
And that's, at least, I don't know, here in Massachusetts may be different, but I've learned that across the country, it's a moneymaker for them.
It is.
It's a moneymaker.
Privatized prisons.
That's what it is.
Yes.
They're making money off of people.
And the education system, they're saying that they're planning beds for people who were incarcerated by your literacy level, right? And so privatizations are actually, they have to feel like it's a business.
Yeah.
And so we have to be really, and one, I personally am what I consider an abolitionist. I don't think anybody should be in a cage. Should people be, if you're violent, and should you not be in a position that you're contained? But for the majority, people need to be rehabilitated and they need to be humanized. It's trauma,
yes, sir.
Right? And people have been indoctrinated into lifestyles, poverty, and there are reasons why people are doing what they do. Let's get to that. There are innovative programs like at the Suffolk County. Shout out to Sheriff Tompkins, the only sheriff of color in the entire Commonwealth,
yes, sir.
that one even affords us access
Yep.
into the institution. We've been doing that for almost 3 decades, pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID. There are sheriffs across the Commonwealth that won't even let volunteers, I'm not paid, a volunteer come in and be able just to help you to understand you have the right to vote. Here's the papers that you can fill out to vote. Here's the nonpartisan.
You know why?
Why?
Because knowledge is power. And if they allow those people to come into the prisons, at least here in Suffolk County is different. But when you are able to go in there and teach people what their rights are, they're able to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's happening right now with the immigrant community, with deportation, whatever, or it's happening when someone is going through homelessness or a possible eviction. Once they know their laws and their rights as an individual, that gives them power.
Absolutely. And that's true. And to your point, that's why on the state level, right? Here in Massachusetts, actually, you could vote regardless, unlike other states across the country. Well, let me back up. So if you are serving a felony conviction in the state of Massachusetts, you cannot vote. You could up until 2000. That right was stripped from people who were serving felony convictions because Governor Sallucci, a Republican governor at the time, said that's too much power for people who can't follow basic rules. And it was stripped from them. What happened to all men are given these unalienable, what part of unalienable by God for the pursuit of happiness? So we're working aggressively to actually restore that right. It literally takes a constitutional amendment from the state to restore that right for 7,700 people who are incarcerated in Massachusetts who cannot vote, though you can serve the highest office in the land with 34 felony convictions.
Correct.
So we're working to change that, and we need your help to be able to help us to be able to do that on a state level, right? But let's start with on the city level, since that's the office that you're with. With that said, so people who are incarcerated in the state of Massachusetts, we're trying to institutionalize the system just like you get at your home. And I've got many, whether it's via food stamps, whether it's via the registry, so many opportunities to be able to register to vote, right? You almost have to opt out.
Yes.
Right? But if you're incarcerated, you don't know you have the right.
No.
And if you know you have the right, there's no infrastructure to exercise that right.
You know who's teaching me a lot about this?
Who's that?
Because as a city councilor, I don't know what I don't know.
Sure.
And I definitely don't know everything. So I depend on a lot of community advocates. And one of them is Stephen Pena.
Okay.
Stephen Pena, he's a returning citizen.
Yes.
Who, I think he does Everyday Boston. I think that's the name of his
organization.
Organization. He has an amazing page, and he's always working out of this place called Be Healthy in Raleigh. So I run into him a lot. And he sits me down, and I learn a lot about his experience in the work that he's doing to advocate for those that are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, of conversation like this, about making sure that they're able to vote, making sure that they know what their rights are. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Stephen because he's someone that I've learned a lot about this topic about, and being able to be an advocate for it on the outside.
Appreciate that.
The inside.
Would you support institutionalizing the infrastructure for people to exercise their right to vote within the I'll say within the Suffolk County? Let's start there because we're trying to make the Suffolk County a robust model that we can replicate throughout the Commonwealth.
100% to your point, because what is it about? That is a right. That is a constitutional right to vote. The first thing that I remember when my parents became a citizen, what did they do? They give them a paper to register to vote.
That's it.
That is the one thing that we are very proud of as Americans, that we are able to vote and cast our vote. Why is it, of course, like if someone commits a crime, they go into prison. Why is it that they cannot continue to cast a vote for someone that they want to lead the country, the city, the state, etc.?
Or the sheriff. You vote for the sheriff.
For the sheriff
you vote
too.
For the sheriff.
Which is an elected position. So it's like, why do we not give them that opportunity?
District attorney, governor's council, the DAs, right?
Everyone that
those
makes
are
decisions.
folks that affect your life.
Yes.
And you don't have the opportunity to be able, and it's one thing, so it should be institutionalized. Let me share with you the vision. So the sheriff knows everyone in his custody and care who's eligible.
Yes.
So if you're serving a felony conviction right now, you cannot vote. You should know, if you think you're serving a misdemeanor and you actually happen to be serving a felony, you incur another felony. So people are like, I don't want to vote because, so they're afraid. And I understand we've had to pull people's because maybe they registered and they were pre-trial. But by the time their ballot came, they were sentenced and convicted as a felon.
That part I didn't know.
A lot of folks don't know. I only know this because I'm doing it very intimately. Like I'm going, when I leave you tonight, I'm headed to the Nashville County Jail with our team to go from unit to unit. We do this every week. We're consistent in doing civic education, doing reimagining democracy reflection circles where we bring in candidates and we have conversation. It's not partisan because we're nonpartisan. We're not about Democrat, we're not a Republican. We're about you being civically engaged and having a voice.
Yes.
But people are being frustrated because many people's ballots actually got stuck in the mail, right? So we're tracking this, right? And we're doing, but it's quite candidly the Secretary of State's responsibility to make sure that everybody who has the right has the ability to be able to do that. We've had to push the Secretary of State. We had to actually pass a law. And quite candidly, the law has not been followed because we're good at passing laws, but not necessarily at implementing them.
Right.
And so that we passed the law, there's a report that was supposed to be filed, and it has not been submitted yet.
There should be some follow-up on that.
There will be some follow-up on that, right? But in the interim, we're working with the Suffolk County to make that the robust model. And so we need our city councilors to rally around us because quite candidly, the elections department of the city of Boston right now is in receivership. And quite candidly, we would submit that it's not even the city's fault. It's actually the Secretary of State's fault.
I would agree with that. Let's just say that. I would agree with that.
So we need to have some conversation about how do we make a robust model for the Suffolk County, challenge the Secretary of State to do his job. If you can't do it in Boston, you can't do it anywhere across this Commonwealth.
This is the capital. This is the capital of the state. So if we can't do it here, what image are we portraying to everyone else?
So you'll support us in being able to make we were talking about having a hearing, but again, we want to be able to talk. We want to challenge the Secretary of State to give the resources. Right now, you can't even in the House of Correction, you can't even tease out who is serving a misdemeanor and who is serving a felony because that's why they don't know. Because they're saying they don't have the technology to be able. So let's get the resources. If we have the Secretary of State, if he needs to be sued to get those resources, whatever it takes.
Right.
But we need that. You clearly should be able to know, and electronically, you should be able to communicate to the elections department everyone who's eligible. If Massachusetts, you don't even have to register. If you're incarcerated, you're specially qualified in the state of Massachusetts. By absentee ballot, you can vote. So absentee ballots, so you should be able those names should be articulated electronically, real time to the elections department. They in kind have an absentee ballot with your name because your address happens to be your incarceral setting. That's your home for right now. You're a citizen. You'll be returning. Put it in a lockbox, circumvent the mail, drive it via municipal officer, bring it that it goes right to your unit. And just as you have the ability to put it agency to cast your ballot and put a sticker, I voted, they should have that same opportunity. That's our vision.
Let's do the hearing. I will talk to my colleagues to see how we can make that possible.
Outstanding. Listen, we've got
what time is it?
It's like 6 minutes and we've had a wonderful conversation. I'm going to give you the floor with 6 minutes. What How can people reach you? What is your platform? And people can look forward to in your next 2 years.
Yeah.
Talk about your priorities.
So I set the standard pretty high up for myself, where I genuinely want to be the best Boston City Councilor, and that's in City Hall.
All right.
I want to be the most accessible. I want to be the one that brings solutions. I'm solution minded. I like to be on the ground with my residents, creating solutions for the city of Boston. Yes, I only represent 3 neighborhoods, but the decisions and votes that I make impact the entire city. And at the end of the day, it is a small city. So I know I'm going to run into people from Dorchester, from Southie, from JP, from East Boston, Charlestown, North End on a daily basis. And for me, I don't take that for granted. So what you're going to see from me, and I did this in my first term, and I'm going to do it again the second term, is I'm going to be present. I'm going to be present in my district, making sure that we're listening to every single resident that lives in my district. I turned 30 years old in September. I'm only 20. I'm the youngest city councilor. It isn't Henry Santana. Everyone thinks it's Henry, and I hope he's listening. He's a year older than me. I just have white hair because I have kids.
Wow.
So I'm the youngest city councilor. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the job the right way. So by the time I turn 30, I have 30 precincts in my district. Now, you know how districts are divided by wards and precincts?
Yes.
I just so happen to have exactly 30 of them. So by the time I turn 30, I want to be able to do a meeting or a town hall in every single one of them.
That's awesome.
That is a goal for me. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, or even when electeds do this, where they only go out to the community when they want someone's vote.
Correct.
I don't want people to say that about Enrique Pepin. I don't want people to say that about me. It's like, no, I'm in there in January I just got sworn in, and I'm going to treat it as if my election is tomorrow.
Outstanding.
Because that's what people deserve. It's what I would have wanted growing up. It's what I know my family needs. It's what I know a lot of people in my district need. People know me that in my first term, I've been about transportation safety, making sure that our school buses are safe, that if people are going to cross the crosswalk on Hyde Park Ave, that they can do it safely. I've been the strongest voice for that specific field. I just honored people that are working on pedestrian safety, and I declared October Pedestrian Safety Month in the city of Boston.
Nice.
In October. I'm the product of BPS, so I'm going to focus on education and making sure that our teachers and students are receiving the resources that they deserve. I've also been one of the strongest advocates for affordable housing, like I mentioned, pushing for reforming zoning, that if we're going to build in the city of Boston, we're going to actually build affordable housing, which we just did a ribbon cutting for just yesterday in Hyde Park on 1201 River Street, which is 100% affordable for anyone that's 55 or older.
Nice.
Right in the heart of Cleary Square.
Beautiful.
And that's what I want to see more of. And that if someone is going to email me or shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, they're going to call me. Unfortunately, my personal number is everywhere, so I get calls from people, which I don't mind. They're going to get a response.
Outstanding.
I may not have every single answer, or we may even disagree on policy.
Sure.
But as long as there's dialogue and people feel heard, because what's happening right now is that our national government, and it has created a lot of distrust.
Yeah.
So people are like, all right, where can I go?
Sure.
So let's go to the most local as you can get, which is a district city councilor. And that's what I want to be for people.
Wow. So Martin Colombo says Enrique is truly one of the hardest working and most caring people I know. As a Boston City Councilor, he shows up for his community every single day with dedication, compassion, and integrity. His commitment to helping others and making our city better is something I admire deeply. He says that's amazing.
Shout out to Martin and his family. I know exactly who this individual is, and please tell Beth, his mom, that ISD is going to go check out the rat issues on their street later this week. We were in touch with ISD. I'm a big constituent services geek, so I love working with ISD in public works. So Martin, love you, man. Thank you for the support, and thank you, Pastor, for having me here. I really love when I hear you. For those of you that are listening, every city council meeting on Wednesdays, we invite a pastor or a priest or anyone of faith to come in and give the opening invocation. Whenever this gentleman walks into the room, I kid you not, it's not because I'm standing right in front of you. I have a better meeting.
To God be the glory.
Because it's just you, the words that you choose, the way that you say them inspires change. So thank you for that. I'm a man of faith. I believe in God. I'm a fear of God. I value your work a lot. So thank you.
Thank you. To God be the glory.
Yes, sir.
To God be the glory. That's why we do this, right?
Yes, sir.
We're servants of the Most High.
Yes, sir.
And so thank you, Enrique Pepin. It's been my privilege. This is the most extensive conversation we've had an opportunity. As you said, I've seen you in the city. I've engaged you. But this is the most I've gotten really to engage you more intimately. And it really is very refreshing.
Thank you, sir. And to the audience, just know that you have someone in city council that's advocating for you. It doesn't matter where you live. I hear you. I see you. So reach out whenever.
Outstanding. Thank you, our listeners.